HP just sent me a statement. It's basically we support our employees and we support inclusion. It's not a tame statement. It's a pretty solid statement. It's not over the top, but it certainly does address it and say we don't. It doesn't say we don't agree with this, but we support inclusion. We support global workforces and stuff like that. So HP just sent one. You haven't heard from Oracle or IBM. But I have gotten some memos inside of IBM from employees that I'll be publishing soon, which should be interesting reading, I think, once you see how angry some employees are about this.
I mean, we've had employees, I guess, publicly quit companies with Medium posts about reaction or lack thereof to this incoming administration. But Kara, what's next? I mean, so they speak out, they say, they meet with the president, then they say, we don't like this particular policy. Well, where does it go from here? Is it just mollifying the president and then employees depending on the week and the issue?
No, I don't think so, because I think there's going to be a lot of issues coming up that suddenly become like this. This is just a very, as I noted weeks ago, that exactly this was going to happen, that he was going to do something like a, you know, however he's calling it. It's a barring of people coming from Muslim countries. And so, you know, I think one of the things is the thing you've got to think about it. What else is next? Is there going to be something around visas that they don't like? And it's questionable if the new visa executive order is going to be something tech likes. There might be some issues around gay and lesbians. That tech has been a big supporter of gay and lesbian rights. What if those executive orders come down, or legislation? What if encryption stuff comes down? You know, it goes on and on and on. And so there's going to be, as I noted, there's so many difficult issues between tech and this administration that they've got to be able to air them out in the open and not be acquiescent, and at the same time try to figure out a way through them together. And I think it's going to be super difficult going forward.
Kara, do you expect tech to have a seat at the table? Because some of the criticism of the early executive orders until the backlash over the weekend was that they didn't really have teeth. They were vague and they left a lot of room for interpretation. And so you would think that companies that wanted to make sure that those policies got written in their favor would be even more vocal about how to do so. Any sense that tech is trying to do that just now?
Well, I think a lot of people sort of waded slowly into it, and if you've noticed, a lot of the statements have gotten stronger as the weekend progressed. I think, you know, obviously Reed Hastings' statement was laudable in terms of being very clear about the moral issues and also about the employee issues and the business issues. I think some of them, you know, it was kind of like mistakes were made here kind of quotes. Without assigning them to anybody, when it was clearly the Trump administration who bollocks this entire situation with the immigration ban. So I think some of them are trying to do a fine line, but I can tell you more and more tech CEOs, and you've noticed them from Airbnb, from a lot of the startups, Stripe, I could go through dozens of them, are all pretty adamantly, strongly against what's happened here, and they're being very vocal about it in very strong ways. I don't know what's going to happen because of that, or if they're going to get punished because of that. But these are very powerful companies, and I'm not sure if you're talking about creating jobs, you want to attack the one industry that's actually one of our most innovative and vibrant in this country and competes worldwide. So if President Trump wants to attack tech, that's a pretty interesting thing to do if you're interested in job creation.
Obviously, we'll be attuned to the dynamic between the two sides there. Meanwhile, on Snap, Kara, you've been reporting on it for a while now. We're getting news today. They've chosen the NYSE. What are you going to be watching for?
I think the numbers. I'm going to be very interested in reading this S1 that they put out. I think growth numbers, where they are, if they're adding, you know, beyond the young demographic, how big do they grow? I think I think Evan Spiegel in a Morgan Stanley, I think it was a Morgan Stanley meeting, talked about how they're putting a lot of numbers on the board of people over 25, which is interesting. I'll want to look at their advertising fees and how they're doing in terms of revenues. And I think that generally it'll be a really interesting IPO, and whether they can garner that $25 billion valuation. And I think that thing's coming out sometime this week. I doubt they drop it on Wednesday, which is Facebook's earnings day, but that might be funny. You know, I think probably Thursday or Friday is when they'll do it.
Kara, how big is this IPO for startups outside Silicon Valley? I mean, some people might forget this is a Southern California or of an LA company trying to feed an ecosystem down there of tech talent.
Right. You know, I don't feel like Snapchat is in the center of an ecosystem there. They're kind of lone wolves, from what I understand from people down in Los Angeles. They're not as involved in there isn't as cohesive a tech scene, though there is a cohesive tech scene as there is in Silicon Valley, comparatively speaking, that you know, John, pretty well. You know, the one thing is a lot of the investors from Snapchat are up here in Silicon Valley, obviously, which is kind of interesting. Although there's some all over the country. A lot of the big investors are Google and Benchmark and some others that are here. And so it'll be interesting to see if it adds vibrancy to the LA scene, or if you see more IPOs there, or even here in Silicon Valley. I think more important is when's the next IPO after this one? Probably Airbnb. I think Uber will be delayed till 2018, but who knows?
Maybe Spotify?
But Spotify, possibly. There's a couple in there that could happen. I think the question is, does it set off other IPOs to see how well they do? And that'll be an interesting part of this IPO too.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.